This is WFO Radio.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of WFO Radio. Talking a little NHRA drag racing. I'm Joe Castello, and the 51st Amalie Oil NHRA Gatornationals are in the books. We got it in, baby. From March to September, we got it in, and what a race it was. Oh, it was spectacular. We're going to break it down with the voice of the NHRA. Alan Reinhart going to be joining us just seconds from now in a back-to-back weekend as the tour is headed on to St. Louis for the Mopar Express Lane Nationals presented by Pennzoil out there at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Going to be very interesting how it all goes down. Big win, Steve Torrance with the Swamp Rat paint scheme, and Ron Capps, just a tremendous victory for he and Ron Tobler on his birthday. Alex Laughlin, Matt Smith, all going to be on the show this week, Wednesday, Thursday. Wednesday, we got Capps and Matt Smith, and Thursday, we got Steve Torrance and Alex Laughlin, 4 p.m. Eastern time. So join us then. It will be great. Reinhart, just seconds away, I do want to tell you about our great sponsors, people like Marvin Rodak and Rodak'sCoffeeandGrills.com. Do you know about International Coffee Day? Is that today? Is that tomorrow? Is it soon? Was it yesterday? Listen, there doesn't have to be one day for coffee internationally. Coffee can last every day. Check me out. I got my Nitro Barrel coffee mug that I got at Rodak's. 817-924-6821. Give Marvin a call for the best coffee in the world. You'll love it. It's gourmet. It's super, plus hot sauces and spice rubs. Everything good. That's Marvin. Also, samtech.edu. The School of Automotive Machinists and Technology, still recovering ever so slightly from a long weekend, but it was a lot of fun. Got down to the Factory Stock Showdown final, didn't quite get it in. We'll ask Reinhart what they're going to do with that, but probably St. Louis, you'd think, as they're going to run again. Going to be very interesting to see how that all works out, but it's all an exercise, and I took special note of all the graduates that are out there working in the class, working in the category, or other categories. Samtech.edu graduates. Great stuff. The School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Go to the website, find out more information, and tell them you heard about it on WFO. Total Seal Piston Rings. The new episode of Hidden Horsepower is up. Kenny Duttweiler and the Speed Demon Streamliner. He gives us all the secrets and all the details to what went down on that record-breaking run. But it's really, it's an advertisement. It's an informative advertisement for the technology at Total Seal and how they can build and do and make all kinds of amazing things, not just for high-performance racing engines, but like classic engines that you're not going to be able to find the piston ring. They'll make it. That's what they do. Go to TotalSeal.com. Check out their brand new website. And Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, Gainesville Raceway. I always love checking out the offices of Frank Hawley's and seeing basically the classroom for FrankHawley.com. Go to the website. They've got the Dragster Adventure, whether it be you want to learn to drive an alcohol funny car, that'd be big, or a super gas car, which is still pretty big, or just drive a dragster and have a lot of fun, race against your buddies. That is cool too. Go to FrankHawley.com. And finally, man, it was so amazing to see all the WFO radio face coverings out there on the track. There were a lot of them. You can get one too by going to WFOradio.com, hit on the store. You'll get a face covering. You'll get some stickers, all for just $10. And that includes the shipping cost. Those prices are insane. And I was really happy with all the WFO radio face coverings that I saw. There were a lot. And there's no better way to advertise your drag racing podcast than over the faces of some of drag racing's, smartest people, biggest stars, etc., and so on. All right. Someone whose face has been covered by a WFO radio face covering every now and again, comes on the show every week. Back in Tucson, Arizona, though, the voice of the NHRA, Mr. Alan Reinhart. Alan, welcome. How are you?
Hey, Joe. Someone whose face should be covered most of the time. I know what you were thinking. And by the way, why did you lie? Why did you lie to everybody?
Because it's in my nature, and occasionally I do that. So much so that I don't even know the specifics of the lie. Please do tell.
We completed the Gatornationals. No, we didn't.
Right. No, we completed the Mellow Yellow Series portion of the Gatornationals.
Most of the rest of it done. Yeah, those other finals are going to be. It's going to be kind of like, what race was it? Reinhart, maybe. Someplace a couple of years ago where we didn't quite get finished, and it's like, okay, well, we'll finish at Indy. Well, I'm not going to Indy. Oh, well, I'm going to Earlville. Well, I'm going here. That's kind of what it's going to be. Yeah, the Samtech cars factory showdown cars are going to be in Madison, so they're going to finish that one there. I think the stock and super stock, they've got a twin regional coming up in Richmond, Virginia this coming weekend. And so they're going to finish some of them there. There's a couple of races that weren't going to be there, so they're going to be someplace else. And, but basically, they just got together with everybody and said, when's the next time you guys are going to be in the same place? Okay, let's do that. When's the next time you guys are going to be in the same place? So it will be finished over the course of the next couple of 3 weeks whenever they all get back together.
Copy that. And it's the glass is half full, glass half empty thing. Early in the day, we were all looking at the radar, and very intelligent weather watchers were saying we'll get the semis in, but there's no way to get the finals in, and we're game over, man. There's no way to do it. We did get the finals in, which was a great added bonus. Like, think of that race without having seen the final rounds that we saw. But there were a couple of little delays here and there. I saw some folks blaming Caps for spinning out down there. That's 16 minutes. Maybe we could have got the finals in, but I'm happy we saw Mellow Yellow Series finals at all. That gives me some closure on the Gatornationals. All those other finalists will figure out where they need to go to get to the final round. Of course, Factory Stock Showdown, hopefully this weekend in St. Louis. But we didn't quite get it in. But enough of it for me.
Yeah, I've got a reflection. Give me 1 second here. I guess, technically.
He's going to reflect on things, folks. Alan Reinhart is going to reflect on many things.
That looks better, doesn't it? So technically, the Gatornationals are complete except for the Alcohol Dragster final, because we completed the Lucas Oil event at the Gatornationals back in March, and the Lucas Oil competitors that were here, that was really Atlanta. So we didn't quite get Atlanta done in Gainesville. But we got all of Gainesville done except for the Alcohol Dragster final thing.
As long as everybody's on the same page here, we
as far as the finals thing goes, can you imagine not having Don Garlitz there to watch the car win? I mean, if they had gone, hey guys, we're going to finish this up in St. Louis, how anticlimactic would that have been for Don Garlitz to not be there when his car won, not be able to take a picture with the team? NHRA doesn't have the winner's circle like we normally do, because we're still social distancing, even though the governor of Florida kind of released things a little bit. But the teams will go back, as that picture shows, they're behind the haulers. When the teams go back in pits, if they want to do something like that, that's certainly more than up to them. But can you imagine how much of that moment would have been lost if they'd have finished it in St. Louis and Don Garlitz wasn't there?
That to me is, and I don't know if someone's going to, debate the number one story of the race. I would love to hear the other choices. And then the Caps, Tobler, birthday, win, all that. That's all great stuff. But the Garlitz connection, here's the guy who won top fuel at the first Gatornationals, and a car in tribute to him, and he's there rooting it on, cheering it on, wins the most recent Gatornationals, 51 years later. It was just so amazing to see. And the Capco team, with all they've been through this year, running the back-to-back special tribute paint schemes, first the Nitro Ninja, which were body panels off Dominic's car, and this scheme, which was kind of sprung on Garlitz as a surprise tribute in March, and then we didn't get to race, to bring it back and tie it all together. It was emotional. I saw everybody on the starting line after it happened getting emotional. Garlitz, 88 years old, Alan, so full of energy, like, dear Lord, baby Jesus, please let me have that kind of energy when I'm 88 years old. The guy is amazing. He's in many ways a national treasure for us drag racing fans.
No, I agree 100%. When I went down to his shop, whatever it was, a few years ago, and he gave me the inside tour of the race shop, not just the museum, but the race shop. And at that point, I believe he was 83 or 80 something. And when I got there, he's standing on a ladder wiring up the generator in his new trailer. And when I left, he was climbing back up the ladder, going back to work. But, went down lunch with he and Bruce Larson and listening to the old stories. And I tell him, first time I saw you was at Tucson Dragway. Oh, I remember, yeah, Tucson Dragway. It's at Hogtown Road. Well, not exactly, but kind of. And I mean, remember details of the track and remembered various things. And I'm thinking to myself, that was 50 years ago. I don't remember what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
And just the fact that, he's mentally so incredibly sharp, physically still so active. And no, I'm with you. He looks like he's got more energy at 88 than I've got at 57. So I don't know, maybe I need to do something to reverse the trend.
One thing though, like if we're going to be not critical, it's just like his hearing is gone. Like, but I'll take it. But his hearing is gone. Garlits is, but I got a picture I want to share with you. At the end of the show, now that I can do this, I'm going to share with the audience my, photos from the weekend, shots from the weekend. But this is one that I got right before the semis, which was pretty crazy in that what's going on here, Alan? Garlits suited up with helmet, ready to go just in case. He went and put on the fire suit, which you saw he was wearing in that interview we did with him down on the starting line. But then I went back to the golf cart to check him out. He had his helmet also just in case. Just in case what? I don't know. But it worked. I think he willed.
What you couldn't see in that photo is he was holding a great big torque wrench behind his back, and he was just waiting for Steve Torrance to walk by and turn his head. It would have been,
yep.
I'll get in.
Lock him in the John or something.
No, I think, Garlits was just enjoying the moment, living it and being a part of it there for the fans. When you went down and talked to he and Steve on the starting line, the fans are riveted by that, that they've been coming to Gainesville for so many years. They've been watching Garlits, or if it was the first time you've been there, you've been hearing about Garlits for all these years. And now you get to actually see that, hey, it's not a myth. He really does exist, and he really is there. And no, it was cool having him. But had we not been able to squeeze in the finals, that would have been really anticlimactic for him to not be there to watch his car win a game.
And there is magic. There's magic in the air. There's magic in the universe. And that's why I always say about, we're getting ready for playoff baseball now. And there's magic in these sporting events. And this was one of those times to connect the sport of drag racing and the Gatornationals and the Swamp Rat and the Museum of Drag Racing and Swamp Rat 14 and the Dominic story and all of it, just to roll it all into one big emotional moment at that track. I feel really good about it, like having witnessed it, having experienced it. And let's face it, Big Daddy is a finite resource. He's 88. We hope that he'll be with us for another 20 years. We hope. And with him, who knows? But to be able to enjoy him jumping over the wall, running into position, to see the car, to put himself so where he could watch Steve and really enjoy it like that, like a kid. That was awesome to connect with one of our greatest champions still to this day. Amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to 50 years from now when he and Keith Richards sit down and go, yeah, well, remember the time that because I think those two are probably the only two from the era that are still going to be around at that point.
Yes.
But no, like I said, it was great having him there. It just wouldn't have been the same for him to not be there. Even if Steve wins in St. Louis, it just wouldn't have been the same.
Right. Well, he might not have had the Big Daddy body. Who knows? Anyway.
Yeah, and I understand. Just one last little thing. I understand that body was painted. It wasn't wrapped.
Yes.
They did that as a permanent thing. The body panels are going to Don Garlits Museum. And I can only assume from that at some point when that car retires, it will go there too. And then it'll all be put back together.
Amazing stuff. Now, great. And, Bobby Lagana has been just dealing with so much, and the emotions were very, very thick on the starting line. And Richard Hogan, who is spawn of Garlits, learned so much, spent so much time with Garlits. He's having his best, run of his career and directly taking the things that he learned from Big Daddy and applying them to running for championships now. I just love it. I love what we saw. All right. I want to get into the round by round and all of that, but I just went to NHRA.com and found some big breaking news just posted. Cody Savage named new NHRA Southeastern director. So it is public. And I just want to say congratulations to Cody, who has been, working his way from the ground floor, is now the newest division director in the NHRA for the Southeastern Division. Managed the race this weekend, and from Friday to Sunday, there was a lot of evolving, and he did not have an easy race to deal with, but did a great job. And Cody Savage, the newest DD in the NHRA.
Yeah, congratulations to him. He was the assistant director under Rich for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or so. And, obviously learned the craft, practiced the craft. He has been filling in since Rich separated with NHRA earlier in the year. And it's good that they finally made it official. I think that, I think he earned the position. I think that he has shown over the course of the last few months that he is certainly ready to take over as the leader of Division II. And congratulations to him.
Not that every division is the same. They're all unique. There is a very strong bond. The Southeastern Division racers, Buster, of course, Buster's Rebels back in the day. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Cody has a great relationship with the racers in Division II, and it'll be interesting to see how it all works out. Congratulations, Cody. All right, let's talk about Steve-O and his round by round. We talked about the win kind of because it was so significant, but it was not an easy race day when you start off against Tony Schumacher, then Doug Foley throwing something at him. They were living in the 70s all day long in that just horrific humidity that we had, very tough conditions. Had to go up against Leah in a very, deep championship implications matchup right there. 37.
That basically was for the points lead.
Yes. Oh, see, even more significant for the points lead. And he leaves first by 1,000 and gets down there. And then, of course, his dad, who, his dad loves to just whoop him and ruin his parade. But Steve gets it done. And Steve Torrance, first win since obviously the team tragedy with Dominic and now all this special stuff. You could see it was a very healing, it was medicine for the soul of that team.
It definitely was. The one thing that I wish I could have done, I wish I could have gotten everybody to go on the record. Okay, how many people know that Billy's going to go in the tank for Steve because Steve needs to win? And see, how many people just know that? And, I just keep thinking that plenty of the internet experts certainly would have. And I'm guessing that a lot of the folks that were there in the stands probably would have voted that way as well. But then you look at the math in the final round, Steve won the race, 3.809. Billy lost, 3.810. Now, Steve did lead first by a couple hundredths of a second. That was the margin of victory. But you set the cars up to be identical and then made the best man win. And if that was a tank job, that was the greatest tank job I've ever seen, because all it takes is a pickup. And Billy goes out. They did what they always do. They set the cars up to be as close to each other as they can. They send the two drivers to the starting line and made the best one win. So, like I said, I just wish I could have gotten guys to go on the record. Go, well, Steve Dad's going to give this one to him. And then I'd like to go up to him after the race and go, you saw that, right?
Yeah. Well, our sport is loaded, and I guess every sport is, but our sport, NHRA Mellow Yellow Drag Racing, is just small enough that we can keep track of the negative Nancys out there who always have something negative to say, like in this area. But Billy Torrance has been trying to ruin races for Steve since jump, including the perfect countdown where he was trying to ruin it. Those guys race heads up. Billy loves spanking his kid, even in adulthood, and Steve knows it. And that's why the rivalry is so great. They have a genuine father-son rivalry, and people will always say negative stuff. And I like that we're pushing back now. The good guy, or the guys who believe in what they're seeing, are pushing back on all those people who are out there just naysaying the event. Like, didn't they say like the season is now over, right? The season is now over at first it was after Indy, the season was going to be over. And now after Gainesville, the season is over, Alan. Oh, wait, no, you're going to St. Louis this weekend.
Yeah, actually, I heard that from people after every Indy. The first Indy, it's like, well, you saw there wasn't anybody there. That's it. NHRA will pull the plug now. It's like, no, we're going back next week. Oh, well, that'll be the last one then. Because whatever. Somebody called me out on Twitter last week and said, I don't think they're going to run these last 5 races. What do you think? And I said, come by and ask me in St. Louis, in Dallas, in Houston, or in Vegas, because I'm going to all of those places. And NHRA is doing what they can do to A, stay in business, and B, to keep the teams in business, because the teams have to race in order to get paid from their sponsors. And so NHRA is doing everything they can do to keep the teams in business. And yeah, there's certainly, there have been some tough decisions that had to be made along the way, and it hasn't always been easy, and it hasn't been painless by any means. But you have to be out on the racetrack. I was speaking to I'm not gonna mention his name, but I was speaking to a pretty high-profile crew chief in the airport, and he said, "You wouldn't believe the number of crew guys that came up complaining about the purse cut, because that, for a lot of them, that's bonus money. They get a portion of the purse. And he said, guys come up and say, oh, yeah, we're not getting any bonus money because of all this. So, seriously? He said, why don't you go talk to the 100 guys in Brownsburg that don't have jobs right now? Ask them if they'd like to come back and go to work and get their salary, even if it wasn't bonus money. And, well, yeah, I guess. But some people will always find something to complain about. And, we had the discussion a week ago. I'm in charge of me. And if I'm not happy, I'm going to change something. And if I'm out there and I'm miserable because of, fine, you know what? Go to work for Walmart. Go do something else. Go do whatever you want to do if you're that miserable going out there and working on race cars. But I, for one, am very thankful that we are racing. I'm very thankful for the stuff that we're able to get in. And, I'm looking forward to brighter days in the future. But for right now, we have to get through this. And NHRA is doing what they have to do to get through this, even though sometimes it comes with a little pain.
Simple as that. Quick tech question from Big Tony Schumacher fan. Edwin always asks about Tony because he's a veteran, I guess. Why did Tony's team change the blower belt at the last minute? And you remember that thrash they weren't able to run. Mike Green was very as agitated as I've ever seen him get, and he was still totally under control, but forceful, just unfortunate. But address that. That's a tech issue in the wheelhouse.
No, it happens all the time. You just don't see it all the time. You change the blower overdrive based on the weather. When you put the car together back in the pits, the cylinder pressure is key to making the cars run well. And the cylinder pressure is a combination of the static compression ratio and how much boost you put in the engine. Now, the static compression ratio you adjust with head gaskets. And when it's conditions are spectacular, you put on thicker head gaskets to lower the compression because you don't need that extra compression. When conditions are not good, then you put on thinner head gaskets. You want to raise the compression. And then you match whatever your static compression is with your blower overdrive. When you get into the staging lanes, if there's a delay, if there's an issue, if things are changing, the weather is changing, oftentimes, the table will tell you that we've got the wrong combination. Well, you can't change head gaskets in the staging lanes, but you can change blower pulleys. So that's what they will do. And it's actually even backwards to what a lot of people think. As the weather deteriorates, you'll speed the blower up. Because you don't want the car to drop cylinder. If the weather is getting better, oftentimes you'll slow the blower down because you've got the engine too hopped up. And what happened was they were changing to kind of an oddball pulley combination. When's the last time we were racing in 95 degrees and 140 grains of water?
It's been a long
Exactly. It doesn't happen every week. And so they were putting together a pulley combination that was just very off the wall, let's say, just something they don't do every day. And they couldn't get the belt back on. And it's not something that you practice at the shop. It's not something you try. It's something that, it just doesn't ever happen. So you don't really think about it. Well, they're thinking about it now. And so they will make whatever adjustments need to be made to make sure that if this happens again, if they have to go through that pulley change again, that they'll be able to do it. But that's what happened. And, there were actually teams not that long ago. I don't know anybody that's doing it today, but there were teams not that long ago that after they would warm up in the pits, they would take the blower pulleys off and go to the staging lanes with no blower pulleys on the car at all, because they figured, hey, more than half the time we're going to change them anyway. So instead of having to take it apart and put it back together, why don't we just take it apart? And then when we go up there last minute, make the choice, bing, bang. And, but they ran into an issue and couldn't get it done. And it cost them that qualifying run. For me, I thought it was awesome, because when the ladder came out, it's going to be, okay, Tony Schumacher, Steve Torrance, let's go, boys. If Tony gets to make that run, he probably improved. I feel like he would have in the way the car's been running. And we might have lost out on that first round matchup. So I was okay with it, just because when at the end of the day, when I look at that and go, okay, I get to sit here all night and think about it. And Tony and Steve get to all night think about who I've got to race first round tomorrow. It ended up obviously going Steve's way, but it's just one of those things, when now that it has come up and it happened to Tony, if it had happened to Leah, maybe it's worse. If it happened on Sunday, it certainly would have been worse. You lose the race instead of losing the qualifying stage. But they now know this is something that we need to address, and they'll address it. And I promise you, by the time that we get to Madison, Illinois this week, if that happens again, it won't be an issue. They will have it fixed. Now, having said that, looking at the weather upcoming for Illinois, I do not believe we're going to have the same compression of blower pulleys on the car that we did games ago. Pretty certain of that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was as someone from Florida that was ridiculous level humidity. And I even spoke with my dad, and it was like 10 degrees cooler and more comfortable the 5 hours south of where we were, just because, the ocean breeze over South Florida, a little different than Gainesville, but it was uncomfortable to say the least. And some of the great performances we'll talk about in a little bit with the naturally aspirated cars, very impressive. Funny car though, Ron Capps gets the win on a weekend that Matt Hagan, Dickie Venables were throwing down the runs. Number one qualifier, earned that first round bye, took out Jack Beckman. So the points are all kind of working themselves out there. Capps gets around a first round scare with, John Smith, Paul Smith, another Florida connected team. And they always seem to do so well at the Gatornationals, 399 to 402. Then second round, another race against Alexis DeJoria, pretty close, setting up a semifinal matchup against Dickie Venables with Tobler. It's his birthday. And, I did not expect them to be able to step up to an 89 and just throw it down. And then the thing explodes and Capps has to drive it, keeps it off the wall, slides it to a stop. They break out the backup car. The DSR team swarms the Napa pit. They're able to get the car without firing it up, go out to run Tim Wilkerson, who had been really strong on the day, his best event in a long time, setting up this Capps versus Wilk final round. Funny car, high-level entertainment.
Yeah, it was every bit of that, and I think kudos. You mentioned Tim Wilkerson. I think, big kudos go to Tim Wilkerson. He has been running very well as of late. He's come out on the wrong side of a couple of close races. He hadn't had any Sunday luck, but he's had a pretty darn good race car. He was number one qualifier after the first session. He was the number one qualifier going into the last pair of the second session, where he and Hagan went side by side, and Hagan took the number one spot away from him. And then he very methodically worked his way to the final round by winning a couple of those really close races that he's been losing. One of them, I believe, was 14 thousandths margin at the stripe. One of them was 1,000th margin at the stripe. And then he gets into the final against Capps. And, Ron Tobler, and I actually spoke to Ron Tobler this morning. I had a fan question come into my announcer email box, which, once again, if anybody's interested, announcer@nhra.com will come to me. If you've got a question or comment, fire away. But somebody sent me a question and said, hey, I know how crew chiefs are about certain parts of the race car. When they swapped cars, did they keep the same clutch and fuel pump, for instance? And I thought, that's a good question, because as well as I do, if a crew chief loses a clutch, if his clutch gets destroyed, he's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And so I sent Ron a note and I said, hey, I got a question. And he responded immediately. He came back and he said, no, he said, the backup car has a fuel pump on it. He said, we've got those matched up to the point that they're not really that critical. He said, I would have liked to have the clutch, but we simply didn't have time. They knew weather was coming. They were trying to push for TV. They were doing everything they were doing to get these things done. And he said, we simply didn't have the time. I had a backup clutch that I was planning to run the next time that we went testing or did something with it. It's like, let's put it in. We're going to have to figure it out sooner or later. Let's put it in and see what happens. But he also said 55 minutes from when they towed the blown up car back to when they pushed the new car out from under the awning and went to run. Less than an hour for the backup car to come out of the trailer and be prepared and ready to go. And it not only was ready to go, it went up there and won. So I think that's pretty impressive stuff. And, you keep talking about his birthday, 70 years old. Can you talk about how spry and active Garlitz is. You look at Ron Tobler at 70 years old, and that guy's in pretty darn good shape too.
Garlitz has only got 18 years on Tobler. Think about it though. It's like Tobler, because he's Ron, and he's doing paddle boarding and he's in the water and he's like this Renaissance character that has many to the wine thing. He's got many different interests, including drag racing, but he does all kinds of different stuff. The people, they like West Coast gangsta rap. Like, the guy is a very interesting character. I feel like he in many ways is underrated as a crew chief. I was on with Brian Loans earlier today. Brian had me on his NHRA Insider podcast, and we were just kind of kicking back and forth some of the interesting stats. And this is, I guess, Tobler's 70th win as a crew chief, which puts him in just rare air. To win on his birthday, to beat Dickie in that run of, the 89, just throw down performance, because he can when he needs to. He just doesn't do it all the time because he's got kind of a different strategy and methodology. Just amazing to see. Caps and Tobler. And as we said last week, Alan, if they wanted to be part of the championship, they needed to do something this weekend. And they did.
Yeah, I think that counts. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. And I tell the story every time at the racetrack, and I kind of assume at this point everybody knows. But Dickie Venables, Matt Haken's crew chief, and Ron Tobler literally go back to when they were teenagers. When Ron Tobler was like 14, 15 years old, Dickie Venables' dad hired him in his brake and alignment shop, just as guy that sweeps the floor and hands tools and cleans up and does that kind of stuff. And that was Ron's introduction into the automotive world. And he and Dickie Venables have been friends ever since. But they have vastly different philosophies when it comes to tuning cars. And you can tell me which one you think works best. Look at both their resumes. Dickie's a guy that's going to go out there and just throw down every time. He wants to just crush the life out of everybody he races. Now, when you have that philosophy, you are also going to occasionally go over the line. You're going to smoke the tires. You're going to have some kind of a failure. You're going to have some kind of, and as you've seen over the years, that has happened a few times. And he also has won a lot of races and won a lot of championships. Ron Tobler's philosophy is kind of more the Dick LaHaye school of thought. We're going to go down the racetrack. We're going to make a clean run to the finish line. And you know what? If he can go out there and set low ET of the world, then fine. He can win the race, and we'll come back and fight another day. But Ron Tobler almost never gives one away. He almost always makes a clean run. And if you want to beat him, you're going to have to beat him. And it's just a different philosophy and a different way to run the cars. But when Ron comes up against Dickie, and I guarantee it, he's going, okay, my way probably won't work this time. I've got to play his game.
Right. And
so they go up there. And that car went 330 miles an hour. I mean, I think that's kind of lost in the shuffle. 329.99.
Yeah.
I'm living in the extra. That car went 330 miles an hour on that run. And then they came back in the final, and I get a different car and all that stuff. But Ron Tobler races his opponent where Dickie seems to race the track. And I'm not saying either one's wrong. Again, you can look at both of them and go, show me your resume, and they're both very impressive. But, I think Ron Tobler knew he didn't have to run 389 to outrun Tim Wilkerson. And he knew that he probably did to outrun Dickie and Matt. So that's what he did. But it was a wildly entertaining day. And it was another one. It was a classic final where, and I said it point blank over the PA, everybody in the pits that doesn't work for Don Schumacher was rooting for Tim.
Yeah.
Because, love Caps, love Tobler, nobody doesn't like those guys. But DSR has now won 10 funny car races in a row, and everybody else is really getting tired of it. And they just need somebody to stop the string. And it looked like somebody might be Tim, but it was not to be.
But they're moving in the right direction. Tim Wilkerson.
Oh, absolutely.
Funny car has been so entertaining. I know Richard Hartman was super excited, but yeah. And I love our audience, by the way. Also, we got Michael Heiner, who will talk pro stock, had a car in the semis, car moving in the right direction. Got Joe Morrison out there, qualified for the top fuel field. And they are watching WFO along with you folks out there because of Alan Reinhart and his vast knowledge, obviously. But, isn't that cool? Like, we got people that are actually living and working and in the sport. They're participating in our show here on WFO radio, which is why you should be starting a watch party. The Caps driving and controlling the car after the explosion, though. That was, those little things. If he ends up in the wall, or they might not make it back. They might not get to run. Who knows? We might not get to see the finals. We might not get to see Garlits because the rain might have rolled in. Like, who knows?
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I don't think he could hit the wall hard enough to hurt the backup car, so I don't see how that would have damaged anything. But, I guess you could try. Now, Ron,
but meaning delaying the program.
Further, okay, I can do that. And Ron was, very forthcoming at the end of the racetrack. We piggybacked on the NHRA on Fox and listened to what he told Amanda, and he said he was blind in the car when the thing blew up. He said the smoke and the fire, and he said he was thinking, I don't want to hit Matt. I don't want to hit Matt. And then he was thinking, I don't want to wreck the car. I don't want to wreck the car, because he wasn't thinking at that time backup car. He was thinking, got to save the car, and ended up getting in its own oil. And then I guess he finally got to the point where he had enough vision. He said he saw the safety safari truck, and part of the reason he spun it out there was he wanted to be close to the fire truck. But yeah, he did a little dirt track move at the top end, and another just because I thought it was funny. And there's a lot of things that if I think it's funny, then I don't care if anybody else gets it or not. But I made a reference to him driving the dirt car at Eldora. Well, he's in the car. He obviously isn't listening to me. And then he gets out, talks to Amanda, and makes reference to it was just like driving the dirt car last time I was at Eldora. And then 10 seconds later, I get a text message from Tony Stewart that says, hey, really appreciate the plug for Eldora. And I'm going, Come on, really? but but Ron, all the other stuff that Ron does gives him great car control, and so when he is in an issue like that, he's as good as anybody at getting it safely stopped, not hitting anything. But the fact that he said, his first concern was don't get into Matt's lane, don't get into Matt's lane, and then it was like, okay, let's try not to hit anything to save this car, and he was able to accomplish all of those things.
Point standings. I want to mention Top Fuel. You did mention Steve took the lead, but basically Steve, Doug, and Leah all within 33 points. Tough weekend for Doug Coletta, but good for the fans who want to see a great points championship. But in Funny Car now, after Cap's victory and Beckman losing second round, Beckman leads by 4 over Matt Hagan, 57 over Tommy Johnson, and 83 over Ron Capps. And I think it's wide open the way it's been going. Those 4 drivers, I think Wilk at 121 back, you never know what's going to happen, but he'd have to win the remaining races to outrun all of those guys the way Beckman and Hagan have been running. But we've got ourselves a nice little points battle. And even Tasca and J.R. Todd, those are quality cars that could go out and win each of the next 2 races. So nothing decided, but Capps really helped himself out a lot with this win.
Yeah, he did. And, I think, and again, just, looking at the weather forecast, when we go into St. Louis, and Funny Car to me now is getting a little bit like Pro Mod. You look at the weather and go, okay, boy, I wish I was a nitrous guy this week. Or, okay, I wish I was a turbo guy this week. Or, okay, I wish I was a blower guy. There's no question about it. Gainesville was nitrous weather, and it showed. And I think when we're going to St. Louis, you look at the weather forecast in St. Louis, and if you don't think Dickie Venables is going,
yeah, when
can we start?
Yes.
Because, that's going to really play into a guy that tunes as aggressively as he does. So I think that he's going to be probably certainly the top of the list of ones to watch when we get to St. Louis this week, a couple of days.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Number 1 qualifier in Pro Stock, Derek Kramer, the American Ethanol team. And they got out there and got the job done. Speaking of the crew chief, Michael Heiner, who says that he has learned everything he knows from you, Alan, is what he said. I wrote that comment. Here it is. Alan taught me everything I know. But you had relayed a story that he had mentioned to us on the Happy Hour show that, just kind of put the responsibility for the performance of the team and the car on himself. And this weekend was able to turn it around and work some things out. And the car went to the semis and lost on a whole shot. But that car is a quick and fast car. Also new. That is a new chassis to them. And so I'm sure every chassis has got its own personality. And you got to get used to what it wants. Looks like they figured it out.
Well, I think, a lot of people look at Pro Stock and don't understand how difficult, those last couple of hundredths of a second are. And, you and I could put together a Pro Stock car and go out there and run 680. That's not going to win us any races. It's not going to qualify us if there's going to be 22 cars showing up every week, but we could do that. A couple adjustments, get some horsepower, we could run 670. But then when you start trying to get those last little bitty increments, it gets exponentially harder. And I think, and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but I think that's exactly what Michael was talking about. He knows he's got horsepower. And so it's up to him to figure out what he's got to do with the car to get it out of there and just making everything happy. And, the other thing that is so easy to get lost in a Pro Stock car is, okay, you've got something weird going on in the clutch that you just can't quite put your finger on. So you start adjusting with gear ratios, and then you start adjusting shock absorbers, and then you start adjusting other things. And then you find out, oh, geez, this whole time, this one clutch lever has been hanging up, or it hasn't, some stupid thing. Well, now, once you get that fixed, you can't just flip the switch back and make everything right again. You've got to go back and kind of relearn everything again and go through it all. And that's why it's so difficult to be fast consistently for long periods of time. And, I think Michael felt like he was, it was there and he was missing it. And he certainly didn't miss it this week. He was, number 2 qualifier after the first session. He was number 1 qualifier after the second session. And he told me when I bumped into him on Saturday night, he said, I should have been low the first session too. He said, but I missed it this much. And so, cost him 0.08 of a second down the racetrack, which would have been the difference between. And, when guys look at that, and I mean, literally, it's like, okay, we ran 60 with a 5. I thought we were going to run 60 with a 1. What happened?
Yes, exactly.
But that's how sophisticated Pro Stock is these days.
Crazy stuff. And it could be all of that. It could be that. Or it could be the fact that he elected to wear a WFO radio face covering this weekend, as this photo by Sadie Glenn indicates. Michael Heiner repping WFO out there on the starting line the whole time. He wears the face covering. Immediately, number one qualifier goes to the semifinals. We'll have to test the theory in the future. We'll see. The face coverings are clearly doing their job of bringing good luck to folks, but they did meet up with Alex Laughlin in the semis, and Laughlin took him down. Alex was the number 4 qualifier. And how crazy that last year Alex made the final round of the Gatornationals and didn't make the run, and Bo goes on to win on a solo. And then Alex goes to the U.S. Nationals and takes advantage of a similar thing, but on the opposite side of it with Erica, when Erica broke, and Alex goes on to win the Gatornationals, the race that he missed out on running the final round the year before against Aaron Stanfield. It's so bizarre. You couldn't write that story, or you couldn't make that up if you tried.
Well, rolling into Indy for the U.S. Nationals, I think there was certainly, you could make the case that the racing gods owed Erica one for Indy after last year. And she certainly was vulnerable. I'm not going to say she was beat, but she was certainly vulnerable in the semifinal. And then Mason McGahe's car ended up dropping a valve in high gear, and Erica won that one, goes on to win the race. But you almost got the feeling that, the racing gods owed her one, and so they were going to let her have it back.
Yes.
And you kind of felt the same thing going in here, because, Bo, I love you, but you know as well as I do, last year, Alex absolutely positively had the better car going into the final round, breaks a rocker arm on the burnout and doesn't even get to stage. And then you come in and you go, okay, the Gator racing gods owe Alex one. So, the rest of you guys might as well just try to stay away from Alex as long as possible, because there's nothing. And then he gets into the final round against Aaron Stanfield. They both shake the tires. I mean, bizarre, right? How often do we get a pedaling contest?
Right.
And I really believe that it was simply, experience that Alex had. How do you get this thing back in gear and make it move? And that's what won the race. And I think, that's something that Aaron learned from going forward. He'll know that, okay, if this happens again, I've got to have a plan in place for it. But, you just really felt like the racing gods were going to make sure Alex got squared up for the silly thing that happened last year.
These racing gods they're benevolent. They want to right things that are that are out of balance with the world. Some interesting storylines in Pro Stock I just want to mention, like the idea that our points leaders, the retirement all-stars, kind of shifting around. Jason Line getting to the semis, takes out Erica in a big-time points matchup. Left first, took down Erica, beat her on a hole shot, then gets beaten by Aaron Stanfield. Matt Hartford going red first round. I know that was brutal heartbreak for the Total Seal team. Hartford had a good car, number 3 qualifier, and came up a little bit short by going red. Greg Anderson, he said flat out, just, spaced, left 2/10 early, and just weirdness in that first round of racing of Pro Stock.
There was plenty of it. It was, it was just an interesting day. Christian Quadra, how about that great run that he made to make his way into the field in the final qualifying section? They continue trying to work on their own engine program and do their stuff. But I also noticed there was a Frank Iaconio decal on the side of that car. So I'm going to have to try to find that out this week, see if they're, getting advice assistance, or maybe if they've just, are using one of his motors. But, there's a lot going on out there right now. And that's with only 2 qualifying sessions. I think as tight as the field is in Pro Stock, and as many cars as we have showing up every week for Pro Stock, that is really putting a premium on every run down the racetrack. So, the first round is much more of a crapshoot, and especially when the weather is different. When we came to the hour earlier start time on Sunday, trying to hopefully sneak in front of Mother Nature, it was cool. The track temperature was 20 degrees cooler than it had been all weekend. It was just much different from the 2 qualifying runs they had. So now you've got to, as a crew chief, be sure that you've made the right adjustments, or at least hope so. And as a driver, I think most of them felt a little extra pressure that, hey, look, we're not 100% sure. We didn't necessarily practice in these conditions. So I think that puts a little bit of extra pressure on the driver to make sure I get them everything we can get if it's there. And I think that's why, a couple of red lights and a couple of mental mistakes on the starting
Heiner says he thinks that Quadra have a Frankie motor in it, so it's you would nice. And the Frank Iaconio motors, Kenny Delco has been running very well. He's been in contention, even in races he's lost. He's had quick and fast hot rods. It's been very interesting. So Frank has certainly figured something out, and we covered that story. I do want to mention Aaron Stanfield, though, because I feel like this is, if Aaron Stanfield was a stock, I bought it a long time ago, and now it's like emerging, and you just knew the kid was going to be great. Top dragster, his dad, they're a great father-son racing organization. But in this race, he drives to the final round of Pro Stock in a car that's owned by Elite and paid for by the Janik brothers. In Samtec Factory Stock Showdown, he tunes a car for the Janik brothers. David Janik has made the final round where he will race against Aaron Stanfield. So talk about a busy weekend and a young, kid, a talent, showing that he can drive at the highest level in Pro Stock, that he can tune the highest level in Showdown, and he can also drive himself to the final round in Showdown, which will be contested in St. Louis, where he's also the points leader in Showdown. Like, this was a big breakout race. People who didn't know the name Stanfield heard it over and over and over again, and now they know Aaron Stanfield.
Well, I think, one, he's a really good kid, and I don't mean that to sound derogatory, just that he's 30 whatever years younger than I am. But you look at who his teacher and who his coach is. Greg Stanfield could drive anything and prove that, from 4 Superstock World Championships to the success he had in trucks and the success that he had in his short Pro Stock career. But he also has an incredible work ethic. Goes in the shop, builds the motors, taking care of his customers, doing what he needs to do, because he has to do that in order to race. That was basically, his program the whole time, was being able to service his customers, take care of business, and make sure that everybody was happy. And that's the way he was able to race. And Aaron learned that. You've got to have a good work ethic. You've got to have a good attitude. One thing that Greg, I'm not saying he never got mad, but Greg wasn't a guy that was big mood swings. When he got in the car, he was focused on what he needed to do. He never got in the car with his blood boiling. He just understood that, this is, you got to focus, you got to take care of business, you got to do this. And Aaron is exactly the same way. When it's time to drive the car, put the helmet on, get focused, go drive the car. And as soon as you're finished driving the car, it's customer service time. I need to go check on my guys that are in the factory showdown, or if he's got his guy that's racing Superstock out there, he did a motor for him. He's always busy, always taking care of business. And again, I think he had a great coach and a great teacher growing up, and he learned very well. The problem with being Aaron Stanfield is, until you win your 4th world championship, Dad's always going to go, "Hey, kid, you did good. You saw those trophies over there, right? Okay, yeah, but you did good too." And that's something that it'll be a while. He may get there. It'll be a while.
They've got a great father-son dynamic going. To see them, and I've been fortunate to be able to hang out with them a little bit, and they are mellow. They're mellow people. They're, like you said, not a lot of excitement, and they handle it all in stride, and they do very well. And I think the kid's going to win a race, and I think he'll win a race before the year is out, maybe, with remaining races, because that car he's been dealing with cars that are other people's cars, and this one is now tailored to him, and that's going to make a big difference, being comfortable in the wheel. Pro Stock, Jason leads Erica by 2 points, leads Jeg by 34, and then Alex is 156 out. There's your championship battle. We have said it. It's Jason, it's Erica, it's Jeg, and it could go in any direction, and it's going to be so much fun to watch.
It is fun to watch. I just can't wait to see them the next time they get on track.
Yes. And then Pro Stock Motorcycle, where Matt Smith just crushed everybody. It was a thumping. Yeah,
Matt Smith was Scotty Polachek a week ago.
Yes.
Qualify number 1 and just go mow through the field and pick the trophy up in the final and go home. And, it's interesting the way that the road was paved. When you look at all 3 of the Vance and Hines Harleys on one side of the ladder, and that Eddie and Andrew had to race in the second round, and then Drew and Angel raced in the semis. And Angel, I think, clearly had the best of the Harleys. She qualified better than the other 2, and she was running better than the other 2. If she wins that semifinal, I think she had a legitimate shot to go head-to-head with Matt. But if you just look at the performance from the weekend, unless they were going to wave a magic wand and find, 7 or 8 hundredths of a second in Drew's bike, once the semis were over, if Matt doesn't screw something up, he certainly looked like the clear performance leader going into the final. And when it was all over with, he showed that he was.
And that bike has been fast for a long time.
It's been fragile, though. That's the problem. It's been really fast, but really fragile. And it's starting to look like, if he's gotten the fragile part fixed without slowing it down. I think back that, when John Force won his first championship, they were blowing the thing up about every second run down the racetrack. And they knew how to fix it, but they'd have to slow the car down to fix it. And they're running into championship run, and they weren't willing to slow the car down. There were a couple of times literally when John, before he got in the car, walked up to Buster Couch on the starting line and said, will you make sure those guys are ready, because I'm going to be on fire when I get there. And then he'd go get in the car, and fast and fragile oftentimes run hand in hand. In any engine combination, the more powerful it is, the less life expectancy you have. And that's why those old 40-horse Volkswagens would go 20 years or 2 million miles. That's why with the technology that's out there today, 200,000 miles on some of them is just broke in. They make a couple hundred horsepower. They've got good parts, and okay, fine, just keep going. But as
we lost your audio, Alan. We lost your audio. It was going great. You were making like the best point of your life. I was thinking, man, this is Alan's greatest point that he's ever made in his life. No problem. Take your time. And I'll tell you what Daryl has to say about you. Brother Alan, you and NHRA did an especially great job with all the hurdles you had to jump, says Brother Alan. And there it is. Alan is going to put he's Bluetooth crapped out, something like that. Now is a perfect time for me to tell you where you can get a WFO radio face covering like stars of the NHRA. $10. Go to the WFO store, get some stickers and otherwise. All right, Alan is coming back in, and we'll see. It was definitely the greatest point you had ever made in your life. And then speaking of the racing gods.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on here with my phone. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, but when somebody called, it shuts you off because I was getting in my earpiece that I had an incoming call. Anyway, we've seen it over the years where somebody in pro stock, whether it's two-wheel or four-wheel, all of a sudden they pick up, a half a tenth, 400, something. You kind of daylight the field. But then they blow up a motor every other week. And they have found something that will certainly advance the power level of the engine, but it won't live. And at that point, you don't want to slow down. So you start trying to go, okay, how can we fix what is now this weak spot without giving back our performance advantage? And one of the most interesting things that I learned when I was spending some time down in the NASCAR world, when I worked for David on the Dodge Pro Stock program, and Ray Evernham was running the Dodge NASCAR program. And at the time, there was some technology went back and forth with some trading. I spent some time then in their shops and talking to the engine builders down there, which was fascinating because at the time, every car had their own engine builder. And we went to lunch one time, and it's like, this guy builds the engines for the 9, this guy builds the engines for the 19. I'm thinking, you guys are in the same building. And we're having conversations. It's like, yeah, I've tried that. I've thought about that, but I've never tried it. It's like, you guys don't compare notes. But in NASCAR, they just didn't do that. I don't care if we're teammates, and I don't care if you blow up 3 weeks in a row. That just makes me look like a genius, so I ain't going to help you out. And that's the way it was.
Right.
But we would swap stuff back and forth in the drag racing world, particularly on their qualifying engine. Because one thing that drag racers are really good about is finding horsepower for engines that don't have to live that long. If you took a 358-inch pro stock truck motor at the time was making a little over 900 horsepower. The 358 cubic inch cup motor at the time was making about 700, give or take. But if you took a truck motor and put it in a NASCAR car and tried to run it 500 miles, ain't no way.
Right.
We get to rebuild the thing every 5 miles, a wide open throttle or whatever it is. And so we could help them with some of that. Anyway, we were doing a lot of technology trading back and forth. And the number of times when it's like, oh yeah, we've been doing this for years. The guy said, try to make it last 100 miles. Oh, well, no, when we replace it every 10 runs. Exactly. So that's not something we can even think about. But there's stuff that comes in from time to time. And, you'll see it. Mike Edwards at one point when he was racing in pro stock, really fast, but blew up a lot of motors over a period of time because they had figured out a way to find more horsepower, but it was hard on the engines. And then what they had to do was figure out a way that they could not give back the horsepower, but keep the engines alive. And I really believe that, Matt, you just have to look at his performance. There was times when he was stupid fast, but the bike was pretty fragile. Right. And it looked like he's been able to get the fragile part out of it and keep the bike really fast. So good on him.
And going
And
to
since he does his own engines, he doesn't have to share that with anybody.
And they've got all three of their bikes running well. Like he and Scotty are first and second in the points. Matt's up by 21. Andrew is third, 28 back. Angel, 48 back. Eddie, 64 back. Eddie did hear me call him chubby on the show, and he was very unhappy with me, but that's a different story. Angie Smith, she's got a quick bike as well. And so all the Matt Smith motorcycles are running well, but Matt's got the flagship, obviously. And they got to have a little father-son moment this race too, as Tricky Ricky wins in Pro Modified over Mike Janis. Janis takes over the points lead, but so Ricky Smith, Matt Smith both win father-son Pro Stock Motorcycle and Pro Modified. As you mentioned, the nitrous car with Tricky Ricky kind of just knifing through eliminations. Khaled Al-Belushi had the quickest car on eliminations day, but got beaten in the semi by Mike Janis, had a reaction time started with a 1. And so Tricky Ricky and Matt Smith both get to hold Wallies after the Gatornationals.
Yeah, they've done that a time or two, and it's pretty cool. You know, anytime that you and your dad get to win the same race, or whether it's you and your teammate or anything like that. So great moment for the two of them. And it was definitely a nitrous kind of weekend. Hot and muggy favors the nitrous cars. We will see what happens in St. Louis, because it is not going to be either hot or muggy in St. Louis. And I think the nitrous cars are really going to have their work cut out for them.
Very interesting. Michael Heiner's doing his own show in the comment section, which is kind of funny. Al is asking how much it costs to lease a Pro Stock engine for a race. And is it still like $60,000? And Heiner's like, nah, the 2020 rate is like 30 grand, et cetera. And so on. I just think it's funny that the audience has now picked up that they've got experts in the comment section. They don't even need us.
Great. Can I go back to my Suburban?
No, but I see you got a fuel tank back there. What's up with that?
Yeah, well, my Suburban has been sitting for 13 years, and the tank was rotted from the inside. So didn't I showed you the pickup last week, right?
Yes, you showed us the pickup, and now we got a brand new fuel tank there. And you actually, this project is evolving. You're doing well.
Yeah, this project, I get the fuel tank in it, and it should be ready to. It should be just about ready to ship. I picked up another one last week, so I need to get it in the shop and see what I can do with it.
Any other thoughts regarding the Gatornationals? Like, Randall Andrus again, amazing. Wow. Yeah. Other thoughts? Sean Bellemere wins top alcohol funny car against Doug Gordon. That was the matchup. Like, talk about seeing a 4 out of 7. That would be really fun to see those two guys just hammer on each other over and over again. But Bellemere comes out on top. All in all, what a great race. The crowd, big crowd. All things considered, what we were allowed to have, we had. But the Gatornationals lived up to the hype.
Yeah, it was a pretty good race, I think. It's a shame that we didn't get the alcohol dragster final run. Josh Hart is playing a home game, just like Don Garlitz is playing a home game, and he certainly would have tried to win there in front of his friends and family. I'm not sure when that one is going to be contested. The rest of the sportsman racers, we talked about earlier, are going to be kind of sprinkled around here and there. But all things considered, except for the rain, it was a pretty good race. It was pretty entertaining. We had great side-by-side action on the racetrack, and just time to head for the next one.
There you go. And you're heading to the next one this weekend. I will not be at this race, but I will be watching on NHRA.tv, and it'll be very interesting. Worldwide Technology Raceway, pivotal race in terms of the championship. If one of these leaders, because the points are all pretty tight, we got about 3 in each category who've got a legit nearly equal shot in this non-countdown season. But if someone stumbles, that is going to hurt them. So you just got to keep up with the others, maybe get ahead, but you don't want to be one of those first round outs. That will hurt. Yeah.
And they're talking high temperatures, like in the low to mid 60s. So it looks like it's going to be a throwdown for performance kind of race. When the track stays cool, and it's a great surface that Chris Blair and the guys put together out there. So when the track stays cool, that gives you a chance to really make those solid runs. And it should be fun watching guys play hero all weekend long.
Great job as usual, Alan. Thank you very much. Gatornationals in September in the books. We did it. I'm thrilled. It was a whole lot of fun. As I told Brian a little bit earlier on the NHRA Insider podcast, though, you know what the best part about this is?
What's that?
We don't have to wait a year to get back to the Gatornationals.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you that.
They're just 6 months away. We'll have another Gatornationals 6 months from now.
I hope you can cool the temperatures off by then, and I think you should be able to.
I think so, too. Alan, great job. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. We'll chat with you soon.
There he goes, the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, Joins us each week right here on WFO Radio, live on Tuesday. I know most people watch after the fact on demand, whether on YouTube, and you can subscribe, click the bell on YouTube. We appreciate that greatly. And on Facebook, those of you that are sharing it and starting watch parties after the fact, I really appreciate that. We have a lot of fun. Put your comments in the comment section, final comments. I will get to those, but I am also going to share some photos. We got some photos that we got going on that we will show. Remember, 4 p.m. Eastern time, Wednesday. That is tomorrow, Wednesday. We're going to have Ron Capps. Ron Capps is going to start the show. We're going to speak with Capps about the whole thing and the championship fight and the dirt track in the car and the 89 and Tobler and the birthday, all of that. We're also going to have Matt Smith. Matt Smith going to come on the show. And then on Thursday, Steve Torrance and Alex Laughlin. And there will be no happy hour because there's going to be racing on Friday. As I said, I will not be going to this one. Gainesville might have been my final race of the year, or maybe not. We're still waiting to see. And it's just go with the flow kind of deal. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, get your comments in the comment section while I tell you about a couple of WFO initiatives, things we're doing on the show. Like, for instance, one of our listeners has donated this steel lawn art, garage art, Lagana Strong tree that we are going to auction off. It's pretty big. It's pretty cool. They're out there in Bandamere, and they've made these trees, and we're going to do it. So get ready for when we actually put this thing up. There's been a little debate about whether to do it just eBay and let one person get it, or to create a GoFundMe and have everybody donate to it and then just donate the money and give it to the Lagana family. I think we're going to go the eBay route, though. So if you're interested in this cool garage art, lawn art, etc., stay tuned with us on WFO because we're going to get that thing going. I'm hyping it in advance so that when we put it up, we can make things happening. Michael Heiner in the face covering. He is not the first one. We mentioned how Gareth went and won his first race with his WFO radio face covering. Everybody's got to have one of these things. Go to WFOradio.com. You can get the face covering right there. Just $10, get some WFO radio stickers. And I go in there and I've become addicted to seeing like who's bought a face covering. Usually a couple every day, which is really amazing. We really appreciate that. If you don't want to get the face covering, though, you just want the stickers, I will send you some for free. P.O. Box 848-353, Pembroke Pines, Florida, 33084, care of Castello Media /WFO stickers. I'll throw a couple of stickers in there, and you can support the show. Simple as that. I want to shout out to our audience and our sponsors. International Coffee Day. Let's get some coffee from Rodax on International Coffee Day. 817-924-6821. That's RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. I also recommend the Habanero Endorphin Booster Hot Sauce. I think it is the greatest thing ever, genuinely. And I'm almost out. I need some more. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. We're going to have to wait. We have the Factory Stock podcast with Aaron Stanfield after winning the U.S. Nationals, previewing the Gatornationals. He and David Janik are in the final round, which will be run in St. Louis. And so we'll have two winners to talk about on the next Factory Stock podcast. But really, it's all an exercise to let young people know that they can go get an education for this type of stuff. Engine building, crew chiefing, CNC machining, motorsport, EFI tuning. They've got an Associate of Applied Science degree. They're approved to train veterans under the GI Bill. Go to samtech.edu. Call Brian Massengill. Call him at home. Wake him up. Tell him you heard about it on WFO Radio. Just kidding, Brian. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure. FrankHawley.com. Always love playing our little videos and imagining ourselves behind the wheel of one of these. The idea that you and your sales team or you and your best clients can all get together in one place and race each other. Like, there's nothing else like that. You're just not going to have that experience anywhere else. Go to frankhawley.com. Also, Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. Go to totalseal.com. Download the newest hidden horsepower. And if you're an engine builder and you want to make power, just listen to the stars on the show, and they are all using Total Seal. I think you should too. Totalseal.com. There you go. All right, we're going to get into some of the photos from the weekend. Oh, also want to mention Nitro Fish Racing. Use the promo code WFO20 to get 20% off at nitrofishracing.com. Get our WFO radio t-shirt. I saw a couple of them out there this weekend, and that's like, there's nothing better than that. than seeing someone wearing your 10th anniversary t-shirt. You can get it at nitrofishracing.com. That link is on our website. You can get straight to it and use the promo code WFO20 to get 20% off anything they sell. For WFO listeners, I know they're insane. Those prices are insane. All right, let's see what people have to say here as we do some comments. Could you imagine if Scotty went from no wins to a championship in two months? 2020, man. It's true, Spence. It's true, and it's very possible. Matt Smith going to be very tough, but Scotty Polachek is, maybe he is the driver of destiny. You just do not know. Daryl says, thanks. Thank you, Daryl. Great job, guys, says Brett. Bros, Joe and Alan, good luck. God bless. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you for listening. Great show. Thank you, Jim. Tell somebody. That is our biggest problem, everybody, is getting the word out there. We are a small mom and pop store, and we're battling against the big corporations of the world. Our advertising budget is very, very low. We struggle just to survive, backs against the wall at all times, trying to fight for our own survival in this difficult and challenging world. And for you guys to spread the word of WFO with a face covering, with a sticker, or support us on our Patreon show, which so many people have done directly. It has been amazing to see. They get special original content. They get predictions. They get a couple of shows in addition to this that is just for Patreon. I saw some of our Patreons, Steve and Leslie, out there at the race, and they're so friendly. They were like trying to track me down. They both had their face coverings, aka masks. But yeah, go to patreon.com/WFO radio for unique content. Let's see. What else? Monk Great Show on Tuesday. Yeah, well, come on. It's me and Reinhart just talking drag racing. Only difference, one has door cracks, one don't. I don't know what he's talking about anymore. Michael Heiner, hope we get to see you at the track again before the end of the year. So Dallas is a maybe. They're trying to put on a big show. Billy Meyer's Texas Motorplex. And they listen, if you're going to have a lot of fans, 50%, there's a good chance I'll go. If it's going to be less than that, it's iffy. And I know that's why I'm living the whole 2020 experience as it is, like we were talking about with crew members earlier, like, oh, the bonus money. Well, the alternative. People always tend to look at the grass being always greener on the other side of the fence. Like, things should be better for me. But I think it's irresponsible to think, well, things could also be much worse as well. Like, look over there. Things are way worse. I'm thrilled I got to go to the U.S. Nationals. I'm thrilled I got to go to the Gatornationals. I work very hard, both in front of the camera, on WFO, and behind the scenes to promote NHRA drag racing and its teams. And I just hope I get to be out there as often as is possible. And that's it. So Dallas, maybe. Houston, don't know. This weekend, definitely not going to be there. I would know that by now, you'd think. Let's see. Joe, thanks. Let's make some money for Lagana Strong. So true, Jeff. So true. Let's make some money, and they're going to need it. What I'm doing is I'm promoting this. It's going to be a thing. And then when we drop the hammer on it, hopefully people will step up. I know we got some people with fat wallets out there for charity. Let's do it. Craig Fowler just chiming in. Facebook user. Yo, buddy, on the road to St. Louis. I don't know who that is, but it's probably Mike Ashley because he hasn't figured out the Facebook just doesn't like his name on the show. Great job announcing at the Gatornationals. Yeah, I kept my voice for 90% of the time. Then the final stretch, I just went over the top. There was so much great racing out there. Meant to say, Joe, not hi, not ho. Hi, ho. Great show makes the day better. Yes, makes the day better. All right, let's check out some photos. I didn't do as many this time. All right, this is obviously my favorite photo of the weekend. Big Daddy Don Garlett sitting in the golf cart with fire suit and helmet. Why? That's the question. Why was Big Daddy in his fire suit and helmet? I'm going to tell you. I'll bet you that Big Daddy Don Garlett was just feeling the vibe of the competition and wanted to get loaded up. And Garlett's was so cool. The interview I did with him and Steve, it was really amazing stuff. And on that tip, I don't know who this gentleman is. Oh, why is it blurry? I'll tell you why it's blurry, because this guy needs reading glasses to see his phone, and I picked the wrong picture. No big deal. This gentleman was sitting down there in a wheelchair with his face covering, hat from New England Dragway, got his Paul Smith shirt on, just enjoying the racing. And I thought, that's our sport. That's our sport. Like, just old school as it gets. Next one. Corey Savoy giving me the what for. I don't know what he was telling me, but he's definitely telling me with authority. Listen here, you. But he is wearing the WFO radio face covering while it gives me the what for, which is fine. Alan Reinhart doing his deal. Superstock on track. We have a great view at the Gainesville Tower. Thank goodness for the Gainesville Tower. It is spectacular. And we get to look out on these fans. Look at these guys. Now, many of you know the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, signed an executive order to open everything. And where I live in South Florida, we have a very dense population. And so I don't know if it's the right thing for us. But for Gainesville and the race, we did not allow extra people in. We stuck with the 50%. But I think we hit the 50% number. You know, again, this is just my opinion. I think we hit the 50% number dead on. We had a lot of drag racing fans there. It was a whole lot of fun. Before the race got started, getting ready to burn some nitro, had Clay Milliken rolling into the water box. And I was standing out there in my spot. My good friend Jason Bader, who was running in Super Street and Super Comp after he'd been eliminated, kind of hanging out on the starting line, doing his deal. Steve Brenwald and his son Drew hanging out in the parking lot with their giant WFO sticker. And this is Brenwald Media, who is also the track photographer out there at Gainesville Raceway. And his son Andrew, they got one of the giant WFO radio stickers, which are not available to the public. I have some. But, you know, if you really wanted one and you're going to put it on something like a dragster or like something huge and rep WFO with a giant 8-inch, 10-inch sticker, we can maybe work that out. But you'd have to use it. You know, that's the thing. Hartford's team in the staging lanes, sporting the WFO. Thursday on the show, we're going to talk to Steve Torrance. And you can look at Bobby Lagana. Bobby, you know, I don't know what to say. I had a couple conversations about Dominic. We see we're still flying the Nitro Ninja, and there's no words. There's no words that are going to fix anything. It's just time, and maybe we get some good luck. But what they went through, you know, Dominic was a big part of the Garlits thing. And I remember the last time I spoke with Dominic in person was at Gainesville Raceway as we were getting ready to leave. And he was telling me about the Garlits experience because they had just come up that day from warming up the car. And for them to tie it together with a win, and for Bobby to be able to, and Gary and that whole team, to be able to roll out of Gainesville victorious, that's amazing. I did not take that photograph, by the way. That's one of the professional photographs that was sent to me by Natalie. So when we talked to Steve on Thursday, and here's the other one. But just so many great things happening this weekend. And this one, of course, Michael Heiner wearing the face covering sent by Sadie Glenn. And that's it. I didn't have a lot of great photos this weekend. I don't know why, but I did not prioritize photography for whatever reason. But that's all right. Hey, I want to remind everybody, Ignition is in the archive. If you want to hear some banter, talk a little Miami Heat in the NBA Finals, we're excited about that. Talk about the Canes. Open up a can of whoop on the Florida State Seminoles. Miami Dolphins winning. Like, there's a lot of winning going on. The Marlins are in the playoffs, but it's all about New York Yankees baseball, which is starting tonight, 7 o'clock. All right, final comments. Let's see. Norris, who was the guy from Florida in Stock Eliminator in the 1969 Camaro? Did you say a piece on him? Yeah. His name is Casey Miles. The car is the Sleeping Z. It's a 78 Z28. It's licensed and insured. It has full exhaust. We picked him out of the choir to do a piece on Attention in the Pits with him, and he goes to the semifinal round. And Casey is a friend, and he and I have raced many, many, many times. I have beaten him many, many, many times, but I think he's beaten me more than I've beaten him, to be fair. Casey has done well. And to have someone you know and is a friend go to the semifinals at the Gators, it was great. So there you go, Casey Miles. Heiner, I thought about mooning you while you were standing in the window announcing. Don't do that. Or let us have a camera rolling. Was great hardcore fan turnout. Yes, drag racing is alive and well. Continued prayers for Dom. Love the Ignition Show. It is our podcast. It's audio only. It is fun. It is unscripted. It is unstructured. It is just people like it, though. It's fun. Monica has her priorities. In fact, go Yankees. Absolutely. Let's get number 28. Go Indians tonight against the Yankees. No. You guys, as long as you don't bring out those silly midges, as long as we get no midges, we'll be fine. You know the Bugs? Remember the Bug game where we were whooping y'all? And then the Bugs came out and turned the tide? And plus, this year's World Series got to be for Dominic. That's the way I'm going. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. Thank you very much. Tomorrow, Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Ron Capps, Matt Smith. We'll see you then.